Hello everybody, this is Joe Novice here. After 8 years of service, I needed to replace the main transmission drive belt on my 46-inch TroyBuilt horse riding lawnmower. And I was replacing it because it was failing to make it up minor inclines in my yard. There was no belt squeaking, but the symptoms nevertheless indicated a belt slipping or a failing transmission. There are a number of videos on TroyBuilt riding mowers here on YouTube. However, most of them are on TroyBuilt Ponies or Broncos, and the belt and transmission arrangements on those mowers are different than the horse. Here would be my suggestions on how to replace the main drive belt on the TroyBuilt horse. First, you really need to remove the mower deck, because the transmission drive belt is above the mower deck. There are plenty of YouTube videos on how to do this. After the deck is moved out of the way, I use a riding lawnmower jack to raise up the front of the mower as far as it will go. A bunch of YouTubers use chain hoists, engine cherry pickers. One guy even strapped it to a tree limb and raised it up. Second thing to do is remove the battery and the battery hangers to gain access to the transmission pulley. The transmission on the horse has a nylon cooling fan. It's a real nuisance, not found on the Bronco or the Pony. It rests right on top of the transmission pulley. Note this: the belt must be fully tensioned or engaged by releasing the foot brake in order to break loose the nut on the transmission shaft. Otherwise, the transmission shaft and the fan will just spin when you apply an air tool or a wrench to get the nut off the transmission shaft. So the number one rule on this whole affair is don't loosen any other belt pulleys until you break the nut loose on top of the fan and transmission pulley. Okay, now that you have the nut loose on top of the fan and transmission pulley, now you can apply and lock the foot brake, which will loosen the belt. After you get the nut holding the fan off the transmission shaft, you will find that the fan still cannot be removed because of the strut running across the top of it, as shown in this photo. One other YouTuber said you didn't need to have the pulley removed because the three-sided plate that acts as a belt keeper was loose enough that you could force the belt out without moving the fan altogether. This wasn't the case on my mower. Mine needed to have the fan blade removed in order to get the belt away from the belt keeper plate. I started to just crack the fan off, destroy it, and throw it away, since neither the Bronco or the Pony even has a fan blade, but I decided to try and keep it. Since the horizontal strut prevented the fan from coming up far enough to clear the upward protruding transmission shaft, I used a soldering iron to melt a hole into the skirt of the fan blade, such that it would allow the transmission shaft to slip through the hole that I created with the soldering iron, and thus slide the fan out from under the horizontal strut. I couldn't get a long drill bit into that same area. That's why I used a soldering iron. At this point, stop with the transmission activity, go forward and loosen and remove the crankshaft pulley. This will allow you to remove the belt on the front end of this operation. Now go back to the transmission area where you have removed the fan blade. You can now see the three-sided belt keeper plate that keeps the belt from flying off the transmission pulley. By bending the ears on this little keeper plate out just a little bit, you can force the belt away from the pulley. You can bend them back once the new belt is installed. I did not try to take off the transmission pulley itself. I was afraid I might damage the transmission. After you have the belt off the transmission pulley, you can then move to the tensioning pulleys in the middle of the belt run. You'll need to loosen one of these two bolts that you see here and remove the belt from that area. Then you're faced with getting the belt off the two tensioning pulleys. Since one of them is spring-loaded, just pull on the belt until it comes out from between the two pulleys. This will take some effort. Don't try to remove either of these pulleys to get the belt off. It isn't necessary. To install the new belt, start at the rear with the transmission pulley and work forward to the tensioning pulleys in the middle, and then finally to the crankshaft pulley. Note that the belt needs to go above the horizontal shaft shown in the photo before you install it around the crank pulley. Once you install the new belt on the crankshaft pulley and bolt the pulley assembly back up, the belt will be properly secured by the keepers that are around the crank pulley. In the notes below this video, I have included another YouTube URL from a fellow eBayer who has created an excellent video on this same topic. Thanks for watching.